So do you reckon that's like one of the roles, like one of the major roles of the High Court is just to create like a unified sort of state of affairs and stuff throughout consistency and
because I also think in the Mabo decision, the High Court also drew on Canadian, basically decisions based on Canadian Indigenous peoples, and then that formed the basis for what the Australian decision was, and in that way kind of reflects the greater kind of social conscious, I guess.
Yeah. It's like a link.
Yeah, in '83, a major platform for Bob Hawke was the Tasmanian Dams cases. Most people, I think it was the vast majority on the mainland, believed we should save the Franklin River. Unlike in Tasmania, where a large proportion of the Tasmanian people wanted the Franklin River to fight their unemployment. So the High Court had a massive role to play in the future of Tasmania and how...
So its kind of effect isn't just limited to kind of legislation, well, not legislation, but the legal area, but so it actually has an influence on kind of broader Australian politics and just basically government elections.
Yeah, it demonstrates how the Parliament has a lot of influence over the judiciary.
Yeah, judiciary. Yeah.
So I think it's very important that we do enforce the rule of law and have this separation of powers between the Parliament and the courts to provide each other can provide a check and a balance for each other, serve as checks and balances, and so we can have two powers independent from each other so that one doesn't rise above the other and take full political
What would
power.
happen if, like, the separation of powers was unbalanced in, like, a bad case scenario? How would that have a negative kind of effect on society? To an extent, I guess it would just be, like, denying your kind of right to, like, fair, unbiased hearing to an extent. And then,
which is one of the main principles of the rule of law.
Yeah.
It's still in our society and US society, more our society, the executive is part of the Parliament. So it's hard, not that in the US system he's not, it's just that he is actively within the cabinet and isn't completely separated from the Parliament. And considering they elect judges, they're not completely separate from the judiciary as well.
Yeah.
No, yeah, so there still is like a bias in our system, except it's important that the High Court still tries to mediate the separation of powers, lest it get even like further out of hand and then have kind of adverse implications on society in general, I guess. So I guess another main role of the High Court is to interpret the Constitution, because, well, it has original jurisdiction on constitutional matters, so...
It's the only one who can edit the Constitution due to that jurisdiction, so it's really important that the court is neutral and isn't swayed, or else the Constitution could be changed or amended in a way that's adverse to society's views.
The Constitution is really kind of essential to basically the construction of society.
It establishes all of these things we've been talking about.
The High Court is the one to do that, because else if basically like the founding document that sets up everything in the country was kind of polluted by lesser courts, which didn't have this kind of far-seeing vision, I guess, and, well, good judges, then...
Yeah, and if it was left to the Parliament, who does have a political...
And even they have problems passing legislation most of the time.
Yeah, so having another, a neutral, more sustained body such as the High Court, it keeps the Constitution neutral, I guess.
Yeah. So
Tries to prevent political bias creeping in and negatively affecting it.